Welcome to Reality Coaching for Writers, where we offer nothing but the real stuff, no fluff. Diana, what's our question today?
The question today is, can we use AI chat as our writing assistant?
Yeah, so I know AI chat and artificial intelligence will continue to be a huge issue, and we'll just go ahead and throw this out there that there was an article that broke today that the television show The Chosen, which you and I think have watched people, we watched it and we've kind of liked The Chosen. It's a show based on the life of Jesus that I really enjoy a lot.
I have
but anyway, that whole show was put on hold because of the writer's strike in Hollywood, because the actors and the writers are all members of the guild, right?
Yeah.
So there was an article today that came out that Dallas Jenkins was able to get an exception, and that's going to allow him to complete production of season number 4 of The Chosen.
Yay.
Yeah, so they're one of the few, shows that get to continue on despite the strike. And of course, who knows after this season what happens? I mean, if you don't get the strike resolved, then maybe the end of television as we know it. I don't know. So that's a lead into the controversy over AI and how much of it we can use and trust, and whether we should be using it or not.
Right.
But there are things that AI chat can do for us that, if you think about it, we already use other artificial intelligence to do the same thing. So one of those, for example, just an example, is Google Calendar. If you've got a Gmail account, you may use Google Calendar to keep up with your dates, your appointments, and all that. That's artificial intelligence, right?
Right.
You're putting it out there. You're asking somebody else to remind me when I'm going to be doing this. Alexa, Siri,
Right.
those things, they're AI. So that's kind of the concept behind using AI chat as your assistant, not necessarily to do your writing, just to be your assistant. Have you run into any of this or talked to any authors who have used anything like this, Diana?
Well, on the writer boards and forums that I'm a part of, they are using it and experimenting with it. And they're realizing that down the road in the future, once the bugs are ironed out of it, that it will be more helpful. But right now, because they have to do so much prompting to the AI, that it's causing them more work than if they just wrote it on their own.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. It does. I use AI chat every day, and I think I've said before, mostly for me, I use it either to clean up a clunky sentence or to proofread my bad writing. To go in and go, Grammarly does some of that, but unfortunately, Grammarly doesn't catch the typos that it should. Right? I'll just kind of get a ding for Grammarly. It doesn't know when to add a quotation mark if one's missing. That's a big deal. And so Grammarly, I use it, but I also use AI chat to go in and clean up some things a lot of myself. And then I go back and audibly listen to it again. But that's what I use most of the time. So as far as creating writing, I still haven't found it great for that. But the seminar I was on yesterday talked about using it as a brainstorming.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted to lead in with today, because I think I've shared before, that's part of the frustration I have as a writer. I'm really good at helping other people either brainstorm or blow up their stories. Usually it's more me blowing up their stories. But I don't have anybody that can do that with me. I don't have another Eddie partner. And so for me, the brainstorming aspect of AI, it may be helpful. And, it may be able to, I can bounce some ideas off the chat and go, give me some ideas back. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I was working on the pirate novel, finishing it up. And of course, most of that story takes place on ships, right? It's kind of like we talked about last week about Castaway. You've got a limited amount of scene opportunities if it's an isolated or a limited location. So ships, and I was looking for a problem every scene, and I've been a sailor, right? But it's hard to just pull out of the air problems that happen on a boat. Now, if you're on a boat, problems happen all the time. And if you were to document them, I would have had a long list. But we don't do that when we're sailing, right? So to just go out and go, well, what kind of problem could they have on the boat? This is where AI chat could come in, right? So I can throw in a prompt and go, hey, I'm on an old wooden ship back in the 1800s. It's under sail. What type of problems would the crew have dealt with, during that time? Give me a list of. One of them could have been a cat. Exactly. One of them could have been a cat that had been stowed away, and it's the one cat remaining, and everybody's hungry. They're not getting enough vegetables or protein. So now the crew's going, let's eat the cat. Let's eat the cat. And you've got another person going, no, let's save the cat. Let's save the cat, right? But even just that little bit, for example, would be enough to carry the scene forward, right? Because now you've got a problem that the crew has to deal with. And so that's why I mentioned the brainstorming. If you can think of the right prompts, if you can, you have to think of the prompt as going, okay, I need the solution. This is the solution I'm looking for, a problem. That's my solution. Give me a problem. And then you're asking AI chat to reverse engineer that and go, give me the back end of how we're going to get to that problem, that kind of thing.
That's good.
So I think
That's
it's good
good.
for that.
Well, I have a question. So I think in the notes that you sent and we were looking over before this episode is you had mentioned to really be clear with your prompts. And there's a certain way you have to prompt AI. I remember typing things in a search engine. This is several years ago, and my son saying, no, Mom, that's not the way a search engine works. And he, of course, was using keywords.
Right.
And I was just writing whole sentences in and muddying the whole question. And so give us an example. For instance, you actually used AI to edit the notes that you sent me. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So I took limited notes because I thought we were going to be able to watch the webinar later. It was being recorded, and I thought the host would send the link out, and we could go back and watch it later. So I made the assumption, like I do when I teach writing courses at conferences, as I tell people, you don't have to take notes. I'll give you the presentation when we're done.
Right.
You just ask me, and I'll send you the link. Everything where I'm teaching you can have it, right? And it's so people don't have to scribble, right? So I made the assumption that's what was going to happen, and it didn't, right? So I had only made a very few notes, right? And there were things I didn't write down because I thought I'd seen it. So I was like, well, I got to backfill this in. And so I literally took my notes and dropped them into AI chat and said, elaborate on this. And what it spit back, I think, was what the presenter was giving anyway, right? So I know,
That's awesome.
and then I was thinking, well, that makes perfect sense. If he's building a presentation to present, he's going to use AI chat. And I just said, this is what's lacking, fill it in, and they filled in what he gave me. So you can do that. It kind of works in that regard. But right before we came on, there was another scene I was working on for a screenplay, and it deals with the scene. The previous scene ends with my character 5 years old watching kids play baseball in a field, right? So she's 5, watching her and her best friend are watching these other boys play baseball. That scene ends. And the next scene opens 7 years later with her 12 years old, still with her best friend at a minor league baseball game, watching one of the same boys play baseball. He's now grown up, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I gave AI the prompt and said, this is what we're looking at. This is kind of a bookend transition for the story. And I wanted to end with the baseball game and the ball flying, and it opened with a baseball game and the ball flying. I want that to be the transition that carries over visually. And it gave me a really good, of course, it was too long, too much flowery language to it, but it gave me the concept of how the scene could open, right? And the prompt, I went back and forth the prompt a couple of times, and finally, to your point, I just gave up trying to instruct AI and just went in and tweaked it myself as best as I wanted to and moved on, because I didn't have time to teach it everything. But from a brainstorming standpoint, for me, it's really helpful because it gets my brain moving in a direction.
Well, and so Eddie, how about search words? Like, can we ask AI what are the most popular search words on a certain topic, and will they give them to us?
I think so. Yeah, I went in and I get really frustrated looking for hashtag words, for social media, right? Because each social media app has a different set of hashtags that work for that group.
Right.
So, last week I was tired of digging all this stuff up, and so I just put it into AI chat and I said, give me the top keyword hashtag keywords for Christians and Christianity, for Twitter. And it gave me a list, and then I said, now do the same thing for Facebook. It gave me a different list. Now do it for Instagram. It gave me a different list. Boom, boom, boom. I had all the hashtags for each one. I saved it as a text file, and now I've got it, right? And that
That's
took
awesome. Yeah.
30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same
Well,
thing.
and thank you for
Twitter.
bringing that up. I just want people to make a side note that each of the different Twitter, Instagram, Facebook use different keywords. Yeah, so that's a good point to just know.
And I think it probably ranked in the amount of traffic it gets. So I think it probably did that as well. But yes, to keywords, the same thing works. I use Publisher's Rocket for keywords for Amazon.
Mhm.
We've talked about that before. So I use Publisher Rocket for that. But the same thing works in AI chat. Publisher Rocket is aimed specifically for Amazon, right? So that's where it's pulling its keywords for Amazon. But if you wanted to do for a broader base, you just put it in AI chat, and it'll pull up, the keywords that Google, picked up at Google Bing, any place else, YouTube. When we're finished doing this, that's probably a good test today. I'll go in and do an AI chat and say, give us the top keywords for writing and writing tips to put on the YouTube episode, right? And we may tweak and put those in. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff it can easily go out and grab. What it can't do is go out and grab, it can't search the internet and come back and bring stuff back in like that. It can give you airfares, but it can't give you specific information about a website if you give it a link. It can't do that. Okay. So if I give it a link, it's not going to go out and read that website or that link or that page. I can't give it a link to a PDF on the web and go, give me all the times the word Christ is mentioned in this PDF. It can't do that. I have to copy the stuff out, drop it into AI chat, and then say, how many times is the word Christ mentioned in this PDF? So there's a little more work on that end.
So could I put in, tell me everything you know about Eddie Jones, the author?
It should be able to pull it up. I think Diana.
Google does it, right?
And I think I tried that. Like there was one time for some reason I did that, and I think it did have me married to the right person. I'm not sure that it had the boys' names correct or anything like that. But it kind of goes out and harvests everything that's out there. It scrubs it all and brings it back in and say, here you go, do something with it. What it can't tell me is who my target readers are. It can give me a generality, but it can't tell me who my readers are because it doesn't know. There's that information not out there. But if I put in who's the target reader of Eddie Jones, the author Eddie Jones and his books, it'll come back and say teens and tweens and young adults and middle grade. It does do that, because I've tried it.
Okay, so you've, as a writing assistant, you've talked about brainstorming. You've talked about cleaning up clunky sentences. You use it for like proofreading in that way. What other things, ways could writers use AI as an assistant?
So that's kind of how the whole webinar began. It's not so much, it starts out as an assistant, but it's, and this is part of an assistant's job for a writer, is to figure out where your market is and help you reach that market. That's really what the point of the webinar was, is that everybody, all authors are told to build their own platform, and the reason they're told to build a platform is so the publisher can sell books. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
And the the answer is, well, until everybody knows what the market is, nobody knows how to sell to the market. You got to know the market. So AI chat should be pretty good at going out and determining what your market is, right? You're basically saying, just as the genre I write in, these are the books I've published, or these are books I'm planning to publish. Go out, look at that market, and tell me what my readership is and what they are like. Give me the demographics of my readers, or my potential readers, and it'll go out and do that for you. Again, to your point, you're going to have to give it good prompts, right, for it to go find that information, but it will find that information. And the reason you're doing that is once you know, of course, I will use romance readers because that's an easy one, but once you know that your demographics are romance readers, and then you've defined what your genre is. I'm writing wholesome romance. Well, that's a different genre. Yeah. That's a different segment. And then you narrow it down even further and go, well, what's the age group of these wholesome writers? Are we talking about young adults, or are we talking about women that are 50 and older? And we're assuming these are women, right? You've already narrowed that down. Okay, well, it's women that are 50 and older. Okay. What are their social values, right? You ask AI to go out and find that. They'll bring back that information to you, right? And once you've got that, you've got a kind of a profile of a possible reader who might be attracted to your book. Then you give it back to AI and you give it a prompt. Say, now give me a marketing pitch. Give me a sales pitch for this group based on what I'm writing. And it'll come back and give you a sales pitch. And of course, then at that point, you tweak it, right? And put it in your words and your voice, and you bring in your characters and talk about why you wrote it. Diana, that's the gold in AI. That's what it is. So instead of us going, well, I'm going to try this today on Facebook. I'm going to try this on Twitter. I'm going to try this content. I'm going to keep pitching it out there and hope that something works. AI will give you really much more targeted, content to pitch with.
Good.
And go from there.
That's, like you said, that's so valuable because, you're putting it out there into the, and there's so much out there that it's so important to really nail that. I mean, even to the cost of your book, what your demographic are willing to pay for a paperback. What are they willing to pay for an ebook, and to price your book if you're self-publishing, or even talk to your publisher about, publishers pretty much know what their audiences are willing to pay, and they price the books accordingly. And the heartbreak that I see so many that self-publish is they overprice their books, and they price themselves out of the market, and they think, I've got to earn back my money. But if you're not going to sell any books, you're never going to earn back your money. You have got to make your correct your price. So I would definitely encourage people to ask AI specifically what, the price.
Yeah, that's a great point. If I were going to do that for my books and I had a price point in mind, that's exactly the first thing I'd do. I'd go, this is who I am. These are the books I've published. You can go out, AI, go out and pull me up, get some idea of who I am. This is what I'm thinking about pricing my book. Tell me whether or not that's competitive with other books in the same genre and with the best-selling authors in that genre, right? Yeah. And to your point, if my book comes back as the top price, the most expensive, in theory, AI is not going to tell you the book's not going to sell, but in theory, you're going to have enough sense to go, well, if nobody knows me and my book's priced higher than John Grisham's book, I'm probably not going to sell many copies because I'm competing with John Grisham, right? So that's the information you're going to get back. I'll tell you the other thing that I find that really got me excited about this, Diana, about the demographics and researching the readers and all that, is once AI can go out and create, I'm going to call it is generic content. I mean, it's nothing you're going to go out and hopefully you're not going to publish anything that AI gives you, because if you're a writer, everybody's going to say you're a bad writer. They just are. So you're going to take it and you've got to go back and make it your own, right? But it's going to give you a baseline to start from. The thing that got me excited about Diana was it allows writers if they do this the right way, to talk to potential readers from their heart, from their heart. So instead of giving buckshot sales pitches out there, once you know who you're really talking to, it's literally ministry work. It can very well be ministry work because you can say, this is who I am. This is why I write. These are the books I write. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish when a reader reads my book. Right. Now, if you've got a bad heart, you can do the same thing. You can present a copy that'll reflect your heart. But if you're somebody who's really passionate about writing nonfiction, fiction, or whatever it is, and you're frustrated because you know you've got good content, you've got a good motive for it, but it's not working, I think AI chat is going to help you get that message out in a much clearer way. The example I might give is a pastor who's passionate for preaching the gospel and just does a terrible job at it. They just can't communicate the message well, right? And if somebody comes in and goes, brother, let me help you tweak your sermon. I know what you're trying to do. This is what I do for a living. That's kind of what AI chat does. It's able to come in beside us and go, let me tweak what you're trying to do so that people actually respond and you get the results you're looking for.
That's good. That's good. So I want to throw something at you. In looking through the notes, I noticed this. So here I am. I feel a call to this certain demographic, this age group, women. I'm going to pick women and say it's very specific. I want to write to women that have been abused. And so I give that to AI and they tell me, what these women need. And then I write from that information. I notice that sometimes AI can direct you what the need is, what to write for that demographic. So what do you think about that? Like before you even write, how could we use AI to gather information to write specifically to what the reader needs?
Yeah, that's where the ministry work comes in. That's why I think that's why I'm looking at this point. I mean, we just happen to be writers. We are communicators of the gospel through words and writing. That's what we're doing, right? It's just a lot of fun for us to do it that way. But we could be speakers, or we could be street preachers, or we could do it in, filmmaker, right?
Right.
So because it's ministry work, and we're doing this because we have a heart for people. We want to relate to people and hopefully improve their lives. One of the things you do is you go, okay, now that I've got this information, AI chat, give me some tools that will allow me to engage this potential audience before I pitch to them. Give me 3 ideas for a poll that I could ask for this group that's going to address an issue they've got. Give me 3 issues that this group deals with on a regular basis that maybe they don't even talk about a whole lot. And then give me some questions related to that I can ask to get engagement, right? So you're turning it on its head. You're not pitching anything. You're literally asking and then being quiet while your readers respond, which is counseling. That's ministry work. That's Jesus work. And that's the way you would engage your audience. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a shout out to Edie Melson. This is what Edie talks about every time she does social media classes, right? Don't tell people stuff. Ask questions. Bring them in. If you keep telling people stuff, they're going to run away. If you ask them questions, they'll answer the question.
Yes. Now, one thing that I'm going to suggest as you're in the process of knowing your audience better, if you say you write women's inspirational romance, you can go into Amazon, put in the search window, best-selling women's inspirational romance. It's going to bring them up. Read the reviews. Read what they liked about it. Read the 5 stars. Then read the ones that are low. What didn't they like? And then when you're writing your story, fiction, nonfiction, but in fiction, this is fiction. a good guide for that. Make sure you hit on those areas that women respond to in those best-selling novels. I thought that's a great way to kind of get a pulse.
Yeah, so that would be that's a perfect task for AI chat. So
Okay.
go out and pick Francine Rivers. Let's just use
Okay.
her. AI chat, go give me the go give me the top selling books by Francine Rivers. You know, what are the titles? And they, you know, come down, give me the top 5, top 10, right? Then you
Right.
go, all right, now go and look at the top 5 reviews and tell me consistently what are the things people like most about Francine Rivers and her stories, right? Not her writing, her stories, right? So you get that. What are the things people like least, right? Maybe it's preachy,
Yeah.
right? And so you just begin to build a catalog of data, right? And then to your point, when you start writing, you go, I'll avoid this, or you may look at it and go, no, I'm not going to avoid that because that's part of the story. You know, if they don't like it, they don't like
Right.
it. You know,
Right.
but if it's something that you go, yeah, okay, typos, let's avoid the typos, right? For Eddie, right? And let's emphasize those 5-star things. You're not writing Francine's work. You're just saying what the demographics like. They like
Right.
this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Now, so AI could actually go in and grab those
should be able
reviews.
to. Yeah,
Awesome.
should be able
Yeah.
to, because it's, like I said, if you give it a web link, it can't find it. It's not going to go and search. I don't know why, but it doesn't read the whole page. But if you give it kind of a general statement like that, somebody that's popular, it can tell you that. I mean, you can ask, what are the top Tom Hanks movies of all time that people like, the top rated? It'll find that information, right?
Okay.
And so if you ask, well, what do people like about Tom Hanks? Well, he just seems like the guy that would live next door to you, except he's really good at being an actor. Maybe that'd be the response, right? You know, but it can find those comments out there on the web and pull them back into you. And if it can't right away, Diana, I would say if you keep giving it a more detailed prompt, it'll eventually find it. It will, I think.
So one final question from me, because we're quickly running out of time, is what kind of cost are you talking about for a good AI chat right now? Are you paying for any of this, Eddie?
Well, the free version's free, and that's what I've been using until today. Today I bumped up to the $20 version because because of the brainstorming aspect of it. Well, I'll tell you what I did. So I have the free version, and so yesterday, at the end of the day yesterday, when I was getting ready to go for a walk, I said, "All right, I'm going to ask AI chat." I said, what is the value of upgrading to AI chat paid version, the upgrade version? I asked basically was asking the app, why should I pay more money to you, app, right? And it gave me a long list of things that it does. Because if you look at AI chat and go to the upgrade, their sales pitch is weak. It's like 3 things. It goes faster. Big deal. You know, and so it takes 3 seconds to get a response rather than 1. I can wait 2 seconds for free, right? I mean, their benefits just aren't really good for their sales pitch page, at least the last time I looked. But if you ask it, it gives you a whole list of things that it does better than the free version. And one of those was the brainstorming. So for the brainstorming one, I went, okay, I'll try that. The other thing was it said that it would learn you better. It would learn your style better. Because again, this is an assistant. I'm asking it to be my assistant. So now I'm in the process, Diane, and I've tried, and we'll come back to this to see whether it learns it or not.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get it to understand when it gives me writing content, remove the adverbs, the adjectives, and the flowery language. I'm tired of you putting that in there, AI chat. So I'm telling it, please don't give me adjectives, adverbs, and flowery language. Just give me the content, right? And it keeps, every time I come back, it goes, sorry, I forgot you did ask me not to do that, right? So it's a little bit funny, but I'll let you know in a couple of weeks whether it actually learned through because in theory it should, in the account, it should go into the database, right? And go, the algorithm would go, every time there's an adjective or an adverb, take it out. I had to remind it today, an ly word, that's probably an adverb, so can we drop it out. I did try to put in, remind me that I've got a doctor's appointment on a date, and it came back and said, I can't do that. I'm like, all right.
Hmm.
So that's what we've got this week. Next week, we've got a guest coming on. Is that right, Diana? We've got, so maybe give a little shout out for our guest that'll be on next week.
So we're having Janet Morris Grimes. She's a published author, and she is also a contributing writer to Inspire a Fire. And we're just going to interview her about just her writing journey, but also specifically things that she has learned that she can suggest other authors to help them avoid the mistakes that she's made along the way, and just share that with our listeners.
That'll be great. All right. Listen, this has been fun, Diana, and if we'll leave this kind of forum open on Facebook. So if anybody has questions about AI chat and how they can use it, and none of this stuff is, everything we talked about today is not plagiarism induced kind of stuff, right? You're just throwing out ideas and getting ideas back, just like you would at the Blue Ridge conference.
Right.
So anyway, if you've got questions, put your questions out there and we'll respond back. And if we don't know the answer, we'll ask AI chat and see what AI chat has to say.
Sounds great. Okay, have a great week, everybody.